Good morning and welcome to Rose Red Homestead, where today we are going to talk about a very important topic. As we all know, food storage has become big business in today's world, especially since COVID. Lots of companies are popping up offering all kinds of ways for you to have a food storage supply that will last for 20 to 30 years if you buy into their hype. Well, I want to go over a little bit of the hype today and then present to you a way that we feel is a far more reasonable way to approach food storage that will save both time and money in the long run. So first I want to talk about some of the hype. Now, I have been online, of course, and there was a study done on a number of these companies, most of which are not over 10 years old. Some are even much younger than that, who are now advertising their kits that come in cardboard boxes, and they have number 10 cans of this and Mylar bags of that. And they say this kit will supply 1 month of food, or you can buy a pallet of our boxes of our pre-organized food for a year for your family. And it sounds very appealing to a lot of people. Now, we know of people who have bought these cardboard boxes full of food by the pallet. They come shrink wrapped, and they just park the whole thing in the garage, knowing that in 20 years, if something happens, they can take the stuff out and start using it. Well, I think most of us will agree that may not be the right approach. But buying the pre-made packs of stuff, I don't see a problem with that, so long if you have the money to pay those prices, and it's very expensive. And if you do a little bit of advanced research and try out their food in a small package before you buy into it with thousands of dollars worth of cases of food that you just want to put away and forget about for 20 years. So here's some of the hype from these companies that do those kits. Since you never know when you'll need to rely on emergency food supply for sustenance, opting for kits and foods with extended shelf lives is a no-brainer. That no-brainer is a loaded phrase, so if you don't do it their way, something's the matter with your brain. Many of the emergency food supplies on our list contain foods with shelf lives between 20 and 30 years. This is something of a gold standard in the industry. Is it? Is it really? Do we have to buy our food storage so that everything will last for 20 to 30 years? Well, frankly, I don't think so, but that's what they're saying. And then they use language like the best emergency foods provide this, that, and the other, which is a little bit loaded language. And then because power outages or natural disasters can eliminate the possibility of refrigeration, well, those of us who are prepared, that's a false statement. We have refrigeration available to us because we are prepared. Emergency food should always be shelf stable. Is that true? Are all of the foods in our food storage, must they be shelf stable? Well, we don't think so. So we're going to present what we think in just a minute. But another thing that contributes to all of this hype are some of the images that you see if you go to prepper sites. Very often you will see a picture of their food storage, and generally it's in a basement, and people who have basements are so lucky. We had a basement in our house before we moved here, and we loved having our food storage down there. We purchased this place, no basement. Ours is in the garage. Hardly anybody has the optimum requirements in their homes for food storage. So does that mean we shouldn't do it? No, it just means we make adjustments. We go in knowing that our foods out there are not going to last 20 or 30 years, even though they could have a shelf life of that long if we were in optimum storage. Then another thing is that there's some new equipment on the market, fairly new, like our freeze dryers. And there's a lot of hype around groups of food storage people who believe that because commercial people can freeze dry foods that will last for 20 to 30 years, then since we have this home freeze dryer, anything that we put in a Mylar bag will also last that long. Well, does it? And do they really know when they say that it's going to last 25 years? Well, how old is that company? Do they really have food that they processed 20 or 30 years ago? No, they don't. None of these companies do. But their scientists that they have hired will do experiments on food and see how long it lasts for maybe 6 months. And they'll take all kinds of data, and then using those data, then what they do is they can project into the future. But what they don't tell us is that it doesn't matter how our food is preserved, it is still going to degrade. Putting something freeze-dried in a Mylar bag does not prevent it from aging, losing quality, and losing nutrition along the way. And so we have to be very aware of that. So these are some considerations that we need to really understand. Quality and nutritional loss we need to mitigate against. Now, is commercial better? Well, here are some commercial canned carrots from Augustin Farms. And we happen to really like Augustin Farms, and their foods are between, depending on what the food is, and not just saying, our foods are 20 to 30 years. They give individual projections on all of their foods, and most are between 15 and 30 years. So here are some Augustin carrots. These are diced carrots. Here are some that I canned in 23. So these are 3 years old. So here are my carrots that are freeze-dried. And here are Augustin Farms. This is what their carrots look like compared to mine. These are 9 years old. They were put in the can in 2019. And so these are 9 years old. And note the color change on mine compared to the color preservation on these. And so, yes, sometimes commercials, producers do a better job of some foods. I get that. And we can use that to our advantage. But if I'm in charge of putting up my food, then if I know that these are going to deteriorate in 2 or 3 years, I can rotate through these during the time frame when they are really good. Plus, I've controlled everything that went into this jar, and it was only carrots. And so I can eliminate a lot of the preservatives that some things are packaged with if I'm doing it myself. But just knowing what we're doing and not buying into this hype of, oh, I've got to have it for 20 years, I've got to have it for 30 years, is just a little bit ridiculous. So Jim and I are not perfect by a long shot in the things that we do. 5 years ago, we bought a freeze dryer. I went nuts on that freeze dryer. I was freeze drying everything, ice cream, and we had a grandson that wanted us to do Skittles, so we did a batch of Skittles for him. We've never done them since, and we quit doing ice cream. We're focusing on food that we want to have in our food storage. But is it going to be good for 20 or 30 years? We did a batch of hamburger in 21, so this is 5-year-old hamburger, and we vacuum sealed it in this pouch, and then we put it down inside a bin. And in our recent video, 2 Ways to Preserve Hamburger, we opened a package just exactly like this, rehydrated it, and cooked it and tried to eat it. It was horrid. And you can look at that video to see the results. And I'll show you where this is going to go right now. Sadly, right there. Because we couldn't eat it. If we had a dog, perhaps, but not just like that. So I have 3 things right here. This is turkey tetrazzini. And this was packaged in 23. So I'm just now going to open it. And I'm going to pour it into this bowl so that you can see it. That's what it looks like. That's the tetrazzini. Okay, then I'm going to put it back in here. So this one is minestrone soup, and here is the oxygen absorber. This one looks pretty good, actually. Okay, so that's our minestrone soup. We'll see if it lasted 3 years. Okay, so that's what it looks like. There's a lot of powder. I didn't pack powder, but just inside this in this package, Things are deteriorating a little bit. Things are getting powdered. What does that tell you after 30 years? Is it just going to be a powdered soup? Well, I don't know. Here is a commercial Mylar bag from Mountain House of sweet and sour pork. And it has 4 ingredients. Oh no, it doesn't. It has a ton of ingredients. Here is the list of ingredients right here. So it should have rice and pork and pineapple and a few things like that, but it has an awful lot of things that are difficult to pronounce. So it has a ton of stuff in here. So these are made to where you open them up. You can just tear them open. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and cut. I'm going to give you a visual of what it looks like. Okay, so there's the oxygen absorber right there. There are also a lot of crumbs. We have had this for 9 years. It's good for 30 years, according to this. This expires in 2046. We'll be gone by then. So we better hurry up and eat this. And we're going to set this one up for comparison too. Boiling water. So here's 2 cups of boiling water for this one. Little stirring. So I'm going to put plastic over these to kind of hold in the heat. And this one I'm just going to Ziploc it as it says. We'll set these aside and come back to them after we're done with the rest of our video. So let's go to our second board. We prefer a much more judicious approach to food storage than what the hype is telling us. We recognize that there are foods out there with a long shelf life, and in fact, I have listed some from, I checked several lists from, I plugged in foods with a 20 to 30 year shelf life. And this is just a part of the list there. There's, depending on who you look at, there's between 30 and 60 different items. Now, I'm going to read through this really quick. Wheat, corn, white rice, sugar, pinto beans, ghee, honey, rolled oats, pasta, potato flakes, lentils, applesauce, salt, non-fat powdered milk, dehydrated carrots, baking soda, cornstarch, commercial number 10 cans. When I was growing up, I grew up in a family where we lived with food storage all the time. Dad and Mother were all the time adding to our food storage. The items that are underlined in red are the only ones that we stored. Dad at one time had a ton, literally 2,000 pounds of wheat. I am firstborn of 9 children. We had 11 people in our family. Dad thought we needed a whole lot of wheat. In fact, back in those days, and to this day, if you want to find how much of what of these foods to store, here's a list. 400 pounds of wheat per person. Legumes, 60 to 70 pounds. Dried meats, 120 pounds. Fats and oils, 25. Powdered milk, 90 pounds. Sugar, 60 pounds, on and on and on. It gives you a per person. And so that's what Mother and Dad followed. That's what most people back in those days did. And then in the summertime, we augmented this by canning. Our family used to can about 200 to 300 quarts of fruit. Cherries, apricots, peaches, that kind of thing. And so that was the food. And now in our family, the term when the bomb hits, because it's out of the Cold War. This was back when I was growing up and a teenager in the 50s and 60s. It was the Cold War, and so the bomb hitting was what people now say when the S stuff hits the fan. And so I prefer when the bomb hits. And so that's just our term that means when we have to begin relying exclusively on our food storage. As a teenager, I really worried and thinking, oh my gosh, if the bomb hits and we really have to do all this. Mother had no recipes. There was no plan. She would just go out to the food storage and make dinner with whatever was out there. And she was very creative in that way. I didn't worry about that part of it. But I could see, oh my gosh, wheat and honey and oats and rice. What kind of a diet is that? Well, it would be a diet that would allow us to survive. But this is survival thinking when we say 400 pounds per person and this, that, and the other, and we organize things and then put them out there with no plan to use those things. How do we know if that's really going to be enough? Are we going to trust what other people say on a list, or are we going to be a little bit more judicious about things? Now, judicious, I love this, a judicious approach to food storage. Judicious is a lovely word. It means sound judgment, oh yeah, wisdom, careful consideration, and economics. 2 years ago, we introduced our level system for food storage. Now, our level system is not a physical organization of our food storage. In other words, you won't walk out into our food storage area and see these are level 1 foods, these are level 2. Everything is mixed together. This is a mental construct, but it's a very valuable mental organizational construct. So the first level 1, you will remember, is 60 days of meals. And those 60 days of meals include the integration of our freezer, refrigerator, pantry. And what that means is that in those 3 locations, we have either full meals that we have frozen, for instance, or meals in jars that we have canned or purchased, or the ingredients to make meals for 60 days. And if we always think about having a 60-day amount of food and we do other things in order, then we don't need to worry about 20 years of food storage shelf life or 30 years, because we're going to always have that 60 days. And the only way that we can do that is by having menu-based food storage plan and rotation. These are the 2 keys. And if we do that, we're going to do more than survive. We are actually going to thrive. The transition between if the bomb hits and we have to immediately only eat from our food storage, our families are not going to notice the difference, because what we have been doing all along is storing what we eat based on our recipes that we love anyway. We have those ingredients for our 60 days. And so the transition will be almost unnoticeable. Now, of course, it means we have to be well prepared. It is not the easy peasy, put on a pallet, open it up, add 2 cups of water, stir, and eat, and then you don't have to worry about anything else. It's not worry-free. We have to be prepared. But I like the involvement of my own brain and my own skills and talents in thriving in the event that we actually do have to live from our food storage. So we continue to rotate and replace our 60 days of meals as we go. Now, if we want to extend this out, we can. Now, my sister Cindy and I have written a book. It is called A Comfortable Food Security Plan for Uncomfortable Times. And this embodies this idea. I'm expanding on it just a little bit, and I have some organizational things here that are not found in the book. You will not find anything about our 3 levels. We introduced the 3 levels after this was published as a way to help think about this. Now, what we have done here is, this subtitle is How to Build 2 Weeks of Meal Plans into a Year's Supply of Food. And the way that you do that is that you make your menus for 2 weeks, whatever you want to serve your family. And then you break those menus down into ingredients for each one of the dishes. And then if you're going to have 14 days worth of different meals, then you're going to have a list of all of the ingredients needed to make that. If you wish to have more than 2 weeks, you then just repeat that for another 2 weeks and add those ingredients for a 4-week span. You add it again, a 6-week span, and you add it again, then you would have close to this 60 days of meals. And the work is done for you in terms of, we have recipes, we have menus right here, and then we have what our shopping list is going to be, and directions on how to put the menu together. And then we have these charts. The charts will show how much we need for everything in terms of 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 12 weeks, 36 weeks, 52 weeks. This is how much of whatever the ingredient is we would have to buy and have on hand if we wanted a year's supply. But thinking about keeping 60 days of meals always at ready, then we'll just keep going. And things will be fresh. They won't be in their Mylar bags decomposing for 20 years, but rather we're going to be using them. Now that doesn't mean we shouldn't do things in Mylar bags. Of course, whatever we can do, we do, but we just rotate through it before it is beyond quality and food nutrition loss to where it is not even edible, like that hamburger was that we did. The 2-year foods would include things like canned goods from the store or home canned foods. That is the general expectation, shelf life expectation for those. Although, as we talked about earlier, the general expectation, the stated date, is very different from the actual date, because we've used 11-year-old hamburger and 8-year-old beef stroganoff. And I right now have probably 25 or 30 jars of applesauce. We had a bumper crop in 2016. I still have that applesauce on our shelf, and it's as good as it was when the top has browned a little bit, but we spoon off that, and the rest tastes just fine. So then beyond 2 years, and that would be more the things that are over here. Now, do we buy wheat? You bet we do. And wheat actually will keep for 30 years with some nutritional degradation, of course, but there's enough degradation after 30 years that you can still make bread with it. But do we expect it to last for 30 years for us? No. We have enough wheat, for instance, that will keep us for a couple of years. And when we start to get low on something, then we're recycling and bringing more wheat in. So we re-up our wheat probably every 2 or 3 years. And the same thing with all of these things. Now, one of the things I want to show you is our rolled oats, is our 6-grain cereal. We talk about our 6-grain rolled cereal all the time. And this is from Rainy Day Foods. It comes in a 5-gallon bucket. A 5-gallon bucket of this 6-grain rolled cereal, because it's like rolled oats, it's going to have a shelf life between 20 and 30 years. But I don't intend to keep it that long. This is a year's supply for us, even though it will last much longer than that. So here is what I do. This sits out in for us, this is a level 3 food, because it could last shelf life about 30 years. This bucket has already been opened because I take my pantry container out there to our food storage and I fill it. So now I have this in the pantry, and pantry is part of, let's see, I'm going to turn this so that you can see that this is 6-grain cereal. Pantry is part of 60 days of meals. So I went to level 3, refilled, and brought it in to level 1. So it doesn't have to go from 3 to 2 to 1. It doesn't filter this way. You can jump around all that you need to. But here's the thing. We already have a backup for this out there. So when this one is down and empty, then we already have one standing at ready because we rotate. And once this is gone, we will order another one or maybe another 2, but not enough for 30 years. because this is going to be a whole lot fresher if we rebuy it every year or two than if we leave it on our shelf for 10 years and think that it's going to be the same, because it won't be the same. There's going to be degradation no matter how things are preserved. And so keeping it fresh through rotation is really a great way to do things. So these two keys, having things menu-based, and that's what this is, but you can figure this out for yourself. You make your menus, you make your content, your ingredient lists, and then you just project it out, multiply it out for how often you're going to be having it in whatever time frame you want. And you can pick 60 days, which would be 4 rotations. We have the recipes here that Cindy and I use. We do not use these recipes exclusively. We are always feathering in new recipes, and those new recipes are some that we feature on our channel all the time. For instance, we've just added another one to our rotation, which is the fantastic chicken wings recipe that we did a video on. Oh my gosh, it's become our favorite meal. And we now have in level 1 enough of those ingredients that we can last on what we already have out there for 60 days if we serve it once a week, which is about what we've been doing. So that's the basic idea of a judicious approach to food storage. Make it your own, make it suit your own family needs. Don't buy into the hype of having to have 30 or 20 to 30 years of food stored. Start where you need to start. If you need to start with 2 weeks, then consider your level 1 to be 2 weeks and then increase it from there. But you can build up. We have a good solid year's worth of things that we can move from level 2 and from level 3 into level 1. If the bomb hits, for instance, one of the first things to go may be our access to fresh produce and things in our refrigerator. If that happens, we have redundancies in level 2 and level 3 that we can fill in. It won't be the same. We'll have to make adjustments in the recipe, but it's a whole lot better than opening up somebody else's concoction thinking that we're going to be able to survive. Our idea is that we want all of us to thrive rather than just be in survival mode. Nothing the matter with survival mode because we'll be alive. But it would be so much better to thrive and have a much more familiar diet so that we don't have to do the big change. So I'm going to get set up and we're going to check on our freeze-dried foods. Okay, so let's give these the taste test. Now this first one is our turkey tetrazzini canned in 23, so it is 3 years old. It looks pretty appetizing because this is about what it looks like when it gets served. So let me just take a little taste. Oh my goodness. That is still great. Okay, good to know. Next is our, oh, that's really good. Next is our minestrone soup. In spite of it, some of it has powdered. Let's see how it's going to go. And this is our homemade soup. That would work very well. The vegetables are much softer than they would be if I was just eating it fresh cooked. But they still stick together and the taste is great. So now we're going to be doing the last one, which is the commercial one. And this is, what is it?
It's
sweet and sour pork. The pineapple is a little chewy. The taste is great. I would say that all 3 of them pass the test, and that is really good for us to know because we lost a lot of meat. We have learned that we did not like freeze-dried raw meat, having to fix it whatever way. It just didn't work out for us. Meatballs that we froze-dried never did reconstitute. They all had a hard middle. We did a video on this and someone suggested that you cut the meatballs in quarters before freeze drying, so that may solve that. but I'm not happy with the meat in the freeze dryer. Perhaps some of you are. But other things seem to do really great, and I love freeze drying for things like making buttermilk flakes from buttermilk, dried eggs, and then all the fruits and vegetables. Dehydrated foods go right here. They will last about a year. Dehydrated foods do. Our dehydrated foods get too hard after about a year, and they don't rehydrate very well at all. Even in soups and stews, they're still hard. But you live and learn, and you test as you go, so that you know that you can then repeat this and have these meals at least for 2 or 3 years. So those are our ideas on a judicious approach, and judicious means that you put your brain power to work with what your family needs, and then the effort to do the cooking is not that much different than what you're doing right now if you have provided for off-grid possibilities of doing what you usually do in your kitchen. So things to think about. Thank you so much for being with us, and we will see you again very soon for more videos.